Hey everyone, happy Tuesday. Thanks so much for joining me tonight here for another craft night with friends. My name is Alyssa Thomas from Penguin and Fish, where we make cute embroidery kits for beginners. And I'm here every weeknight, Monday through Friday at 8:30 p.m. Central Time. So thanks again for joining me. Tonight we are working on the Granny Square Quilt. So we have started to actually quilt this. I'm going to quilt the borders. Just simple quilting in the borders right now, and then I'm going to put the binding on. So I think I'm going to put the binding on tonight. I think we'll get that far, and I'm hoping we actually finish sewing that on. It won't be like the hand-stitched part of it all, but I'm totally cheating and putting on the binding super duper early to make me feel like we're a little bit farther with this project. So I'm excited for that. So let's get going, everyone. Okay, so we have our quilting. We have the Granny Square Quilt all laid out here, and last night we stitched the inner border here, and tonight we're going to be stitching this outer border line, just two lines around this whole thing, and then we're going to put the binding on. I know we have tons to do on the inside yet as far as quilting goes, and I want to do some decorative quilting in here, but I haven't quite decided the extent that I want to do for quilting. So for now, I'm just going to go around the two outsides and stick the binding on, and theoretically, after we do some quilting on the inside, I could call it done, or I could call it just, easy enough for me to work on it just at random times and stuff. So where we left off is we went around the inside, and now I have two sides of the outside done, and so we're kind of on that pivot point. I have two more sides, yet we ran out of time last night, so I'm gonna rotate, get this side going, and yeah, two more sides, and we'll start the binding. I have the binding already made. We've made it, pre-made it. So all of our pieces will be attached to this tonight is what I'm hoping for. I won't have any other kind of like remaining pieces of this project, which is crazy. This quilt we've been working on for several years already, I think. But I love it. I'm really liking this one a lot. I'm not using a walking foot. I'm still just kind of using this old vintage sewing machine, and it seems to be working fine. All right, I got to take this pin out. It's a little close. Oh, maybe not. Last night I was gonna just take the pins out as I go, but now I'm just gonna try and scooch past them all. Just get the sewing done. It doesn't seem like it's puckered on the back at all, so that's positive. Oh, I didn't get my extension table or anything out, so I guess we're just gonna do it like how we did last night, which actually I think went pretty well. It does get, this outside is getting a little weird though. It's like it's a little looser than everything else, so I might have to remove some pins as I go. And ultimately, it's going to just be what it's going to be. Oh, Michelle says, awesome that you're using the lovely machine. Yeah, I am really, really pleased with how this machine is working. It's just been a great workhorse through this whole process. And I don't think we have had really any puckering in the back or anything, and it's just plowing through all these layers like it's nothing. So that's fabulous. Just need to readjust every once in a while so it doesn't start veering off to the side. Just shifting shifting it more up onto the table. Oh, I did see that that bean-shaped table, or not even a bean, like a macaroni-shaped table. Oh, I forget who posted that in the Facebook group, but that would be so awesome. Have it like the table come down the side next to me here, and a little bit on the other side, and I'd just be like right in the middle of that. Dang, if I had the room, I'm gonna like that's gonna just stay on my brain. A table like that for quilting, because I mean you're dealing with all this bulk, so to have that be on the table near you would just be kind of awesome, instead of like falling on the floor and sitting in my lap and all that. I'm expecting to have bobbin for a while yet. I talked about that a little bit. I did put some fresh bobbin on here. We're using that kind of pale orange. Mostly because we ran out of the other stuff, but this pale orange, we kind of looked at it earlier and thought it'd be super cute with this teal, and I think just like a fun contrasty color, and I think it's working out so far for sure. So all your embroidery of the months went out, so you should start receiving those soon. I'm excited to start stitching that, those little oak leaves. That'll be fun. I'm really just enjoying chilling here though, and sewing on this. Oh, Gretchen said I was just watching Tula Pink introduce her new fabric line. Gorgeous. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I think she does. Tula Pink, she's a fabric designer, an artist, and she, I think, does a Tuesday live every week, and that's today. In my head, it's like Thursday, but it's only Tuesday. It's nice. We're getting to the end here. Ooh, I'm a little off the line here. So what we're doing is called stitch in the ditch. That's when we're sewing right in the seams. We'll do our decorative free motion stitching. At least in this border, I kind of want to do that. We'll do that with the other sewing machine. Alright. Right about there, and we have one more edge to do. So I'm going to just rotate all this, which is kind of a trick. Because if I don't rotate it, then it'll start trying to like twist upon itself. So I'm trying to rotate it now and put a bunch in my lap. This is where that macaroni table would be amazing. All right, let's keep going. Final row. So we talked about putting the binding on yesterday, and typically I do like a zigzag stitch on the border, or right on the edge, I mean, and then trim it. That's when you can square up the corners and the edges and just get your quilt like just perfectly square. But I've kind of decided that I'm not sure I really care about that for this quilt. I mean, we have these decorative borders here, and if I veer from that, I think it'll be more noticeable. So if it's not perfectly square, I'm okay with that. So I think I'm just going to sew the binding directly to the edge and just say the edge is fine, we're going with this edge. Sew the binding directly to that and then cut off the excess. That's not typically how I do it, but I don't know, I'm kind of feeling it for this quilt. Then I only have to sew around once and the binding would be on. And normally I would quilt the whole thing before putting the binding on. But I think it'll be fine. Make sure to, Sharon says, Iron, Alyssa, you need to measure and mark the length of your sides on your binding so I don't stretch it. Oh, I've never done that before. That's a good point. Sharon's saying that so I don't stretch the binding, or, you know, kind of like when we put a border on, we put on the two ends and then mark the centers and just get everything all lined up. Sharon's suggesting that I measure the edges, the sides, and then make sure that my binding is like that too. Oh man, I don't know if I would be able to do that. I think I'm going to just sew it on and let it be however it's going to be. I think we have enough binding on, and if not, I'll attach a little bit more. So, yeah, I just don't have the floor space or table space really to do a big perfect measurement like that, so I think I'm just gonna sew it on. It's not gonna be perfect. So yeah, I think we'll just attach it. Probably not the cleanest, you know, not the most accurate way of doing it, but I feel like I'm beyond that with this quilt anyway. This quilt is not perfect. Yeah, I'm not sure. I think we're just gonna sew it on. I like that idea though, especially, so there's a lot of things with the binding, like, you know, we have seamed it together, so, you know, we don't have a single piece that's as long as the border or around the edge, so we have to like piece shorter pieces together, and so we've done that, and typically you don't want, where you've seamed it, you don't want that landing on a corner either, so a lot of times you lay your quilt out completely on the ground and then like lay your binding out and make sure that it's moved around so that the binding isn't, like the seam isn't right on the corner. I don't think I'll be able to do that either, so we're just gonna have to deal with all that stuff if the binding happens on a corner, or the seam happens on a corner, and if it stretches a little. Oh, that's a good point, Gina. Gina said, did you cut the binding out on the bias? If not, it really wouldn't stretch much, would it? That's a good point. So I did not cut it out on the bias. The bias is that 45-degree angle of the fabric that's super duper stretchy. And it's great for, it's the traditional way of doing and a smart way of doing a binding, especially if you're going around like a curved scalped edge or something like that. Ooh, did I do that weird here? No, I think we're fine still. I just did a straight binding where I'm just did it with the grain. So yeah, it shouldn't really stretch that much, I suppose. Yeah, the outer border does look a little loose. So so Sharon, you're saying you just need to roughly measure it. I suggest it because the outer border looks a little loose. So meaning you'd, let's see. So you're saying do that, and then it would help not have this loose anymore, because I'd be going for the like length of the, like I'd be measuring what the binding would be and then sticking to that. And then this would get kind of, this would be like the big on the bottom sort of scenario. Kimberly's saying, are you going to cut off excess binding and fabric? So I'm going out of order, Kimberly, that I normally do. So it's a little goofy. So I think typically I do a zigzag stitch on the edge here, and then I cut off the excess, and then I sew on the binding afterwards. but I'm kind of, I don't know, I'm feeling like I might just sew directly on this edge, and then when the whole entire binding is on, then I would cut away this just right along the edge, probably with just a scissors too. Linda says, instead of sewing around squares, how about sew them top to bottom, side to side along the stashing? I might do that, Linda. So that's not how Linda's saying for this design, like my plan was to go around each one of these squares individually. That's how it's showing in the pattern right now in the design that we have. Linda suggested maybe I just go all the way straight down and up, which would be way easier, and that is how I would normally do it because I do not want to start and stop for each square. However, the design that came with the pattern, it didn't do it that way, and if I end up going with what the design of the pattern, the quilt would be, they're doing like these cross marks in here, and that would be super visible if this line crossed through. So just because I haven't completely decided what direction I'm going to go with the quilting yet, I think I'm going to just try and go around the squares, which again is not how I would typically do something, but I don't know. I'm kind of in the mind battle of like, do I stick with all the quilting that was in the pattern like I started, or like my plan was, or do I just simplify it? Because I think simplified would be cute too. Will I sew the side edges of the quilt before adding binding just to stabilize the sides? I don't think so, Kimberly, so that's what I would normally do. But I'm kind of skipping that step, and it might get wonky and weird. So, yeah, I don't know. It would help. Okay, Sharon's saying it would help work any extra fabric instead of pushing it to the end. Oh, I see what you're saying. So instead of like sewing where it gets bulkier and bulkier and bulkier, then my binding is goofy like that, it would kind of reduce some of that. Yeah, that's true. I wonder if I just pin it again, like get my safety pins and pin the edges a little bit. But that's a good point. Yeah, it would help with that. All right, we made it around though, so let's take it off and pull those threads back. I'm gonna get right down here while we do that this time, so bear with me here. Okay, so this is where, so this again is another thing. I'm doing things a little bit differently. So this is another thing that I don't normally do, because usually I'm going like an edge to an edge, so I don't have to deal with this. But I'm gonna grab a needle here. I'm gonna do this whole thing where you pull the front threads, so we just went around, where we pull the front threads to the back and then tie it in a knot and then hide the knot. So that's like the fancy quilt way of doing it. Like if you're gonna enter a quilt into the fair or something, they're gonna expect, a real good quilt to hide all of the little threads. Oops, I think I just pulled out a stitch here. Oh, there we go. I'm missing one thread. So usually I can pull from the back. Yep, there we go, and it'll grab the thread from the front. So, all right, let's do those knots again. I'm gonna just kind of grab both of these separately. I could probably tie all this in a knot, but I'm gonna do the ones that are next to each other. There we go, separate those. All right, these are about the same length, but let's get them a little bit closer. So I'm gonna just tie basically a quilter's knot. Oh yikes, I just got a quilt back from the long ironer. Oh no, back, and it hadn't been as careful as I could have been measuring, and it ended up, oh, that you had creases all over the place. Oh, that's a bummer, Kimberly. So maybe I should just kind of look at that a little bit with the binding. I'd like to still be able to get it on tonight, but we'll see. All right, so there, I made my little knot right there, and now I'm gonna tuck it in to the fabric here. Tuck it in just under the top layer, or the bottom layer here, I suppose. There we go. The back layer, back of the fabric here. Snip that away. And let's get our other one. Geez, missed that one. It's a little curly there. There we go. So I'm just thinking about this binding a little bit. To really get it good where it doesn't like bend that or like warp or crease. What was that called? Like little creases, those diagonal creases in that really outside border. I should do that like where I measure it and then fold it and, you know, do the halves, like mark the half and mark the ends and clip it all. But man, I just don't know. I mean, like I know it would be better if I did that. But I'm trying to outweigh like, okay, the binding would be a little bit better and it wouldn't have like possible like creases like this. Hold on, let me finish this and I'll kind of talk through this. All I gotta do is snip this, then we're done pulling those threads through to the back. So now those are basically invisible. But yeah, so the risk of putting the binding on without measuring it and without like easing it as I go, the risk is that I keep pulling this fabric as I sew this big long line and it gets like all messed up. Like it might come in like a little bit like this, or I might get all these kind of diagonal kind of puckers if I don't just like do it just right, like measure and do all that. Trying to see if that outweighs me just wanting to get it done in my head and just get it on. But it's something I need to be careful of. I wonder if I just keep, as I sew, just like really kind of keep checking that everything's kind of flat here. I wonder if that would be good enough. I kind of want to just sew it on. I could put pins in this edge a little bit more too. Oh, I'm a little undecided. Let's see. Let's get back up here though, and then we'll check it out. Let's see. I think even stitching the edge down would help. So stitch the edge down, don't rush it, and re-get it. Alright, so maybe I'll just do my normal way of like stitching it down first instead of trying to stitch everything together. Because that will kind of hold it in place. I might still just wait to cut off the edge. Tracy said, I've never measured the binding. I didn't know that was a thing. Yeah, I've never done that either. I could just sew this down. That would reduce at least one element as I sewed on the next part. So fine, we'll do that. It'll be a little in the middle kind of compromise for this. So I think I think I'll sew around the edge. Actually, I might just pull this last row back because then it's all in the right direction still. Okay, so let's do this. I'm going to sew along the edge. Again, that's my normal way of doing it. I just was gonna try and skip it for this, but I think you're right. I think, you know, it might just be a little bit better. And as I do it, I'm just gonna really make sure, I'm just gonna hold it kind of really flat here and see if I can get it. This will be like a good test. If it's really bad on this first row, then maybe I'll, I don't know, try and figure out something else, but let's just give it a try. And maybe I'll get rid of pins as I go, border pins. All right, so I'm gonna just start up here, and I'm gonna go not a total. I'm not gonna go 1/4 of an inch, because eventually I'll be sewing the binding on at 1/4 of an inch. So I'm gonna go like 1/8 of an inch. I'm just barely gonna attach this enough, and that'll be fine. This is just to, we're kind of like basting my border on. So the difference here, another difference, is that usually I would do this as zigzag stitch as well, but this machine does not do a zigzag stitch. So we're just gonna try doing it like this. So I'm just gonna, as I go, I'm just gonna kind of really lay this flat, and I'm gonna get my gloves back on too, just because that makes things a whole lot easier. So I'm gonna just kind of lay this flat, and maybe I won't deal with the pins, let that be its own thing yet. Really flatten this. Maybe I'll even get the stiletto out if I do need to help ease it. But yeah, I'm just getting right kind of close to the edge here. This will be covered up by my binding when I sew that on. So if this is not perfect, like if I go off the edge or something, that's fine. Because this, again, will be covered up with my binding. So this just, the reason this is maybe good to do it this way is that I'm only paying attention to one thing. I don't have to worry about my binding being totally perfectly lined up and getting this sewn down and all that at the same time. So we'll go around. I don't know if we'll get all that done, and then we'll start getting the binding on. But I still want to get that binding on, so we might, let's see, today's Tuesday, so we'll get around this, and then we might, so then we might have to wait till tomorrow to get the binding on, but I definitely want to get it on. I think this is helping, so let's just take a look quick. So far it's nice and flat. It hasn't like pulled or anything yet. I will probably put the binding on. Well, I don't know. Maybe I'll cut all this stuff off first. Yeah, I might trim all this stuff off before putting the binding on. Then it's kind of like how I'm used to it. Carol says lengthen the stitch. Oh, okay. Oh, Kimberly says you could use a looser stitch to give some give to the seam. Okay, I'll do that. So I'm going to, I'm making the stitch length longer. So let's just, I was at like a 2. Let's go 3 and see how that goes. I could probably even do it more, because really we are just basting this on. I'm gonna go 4. I've never stitched anything that big. It's gonna shimmy, it's gonna shoot on ahead real quick with stitches that big. So I'll have to stop a little bit more often, but yeah, so just to look at the stitch length, I changed it. So here's the 4. You can see it's kind of big compared to, I was at 2. So here's the differences in stitch length. I think you can see it. So yeah, so I'm a lot bigger now. So it's even more of a, like, just basting it down. Good suggestions, everyone. Oh yeah, so Sharon says that to increase the stitch length to help with pushing the fabric. Okay, perfect. That's why I love doing this stuff live, is I get to learn all of this new stuff. So all of this makes sense. And this is looking better. Like, after talking about it, I'm like, oh yeah, I might be pulling that border weird, and I don't want to do that. So far, it's looking great. It's not like doing those diagonal pulls at all. I mean, I'm being super extra careful, and it does help that we have a seam really close here, so that I can just kind of push each little bit and make sure it's going well. Ooh, I need to scooch everything down here. All right, let's keep going up here. Kimberly says, I think I should cut off the excess fabric and batting so I truly have a edge. Yeah, I think I might do that too, since I'm just kind of doing what I usually do now. I'm probably going to cut it with the scissors because I don't have a large space to just lay this whole thing out and cut, but I can still cut slowly along the edge, and I'm kind of okay with that. Normally I would do this part at my parents' house, and we'd get this out on the floor and get all the cutting boards underneath it and trim it all nice and straight. But I think we can just improvise fine. All right, so here it's getting a little loose, so I might actually just get this guy under here and. Ooh, I don't want to pucker though. Come back. Just kind of ease it little by little. We're getting to the end. I think we got like 2 more squares to kind of go. So here's one of these joinings. That might be why it's getting a little loose there. It is just pulling me to the ground here. Hey Brenda, this is my, I'm sewing on my Kenmore, my old Kenmore from 1938. My vintage, I call it my steampunk Kenmore. I'm trying to get it to not pucker now, so I am having some of those pulling issues. So I'm not using a walking foot or anything like that because I don't have one for this machine, and this is kind of my only working machine with feed dogs right now that function, which is kind of silly. Oh, I'm gonna get a little pucker there. That'll be hidden enough once I get the binding on, I think. Boo. Oh yeah, that'll be totally hidden. Getting there. Here, I'll flip back to here for a little. So here's what I'm kind of dealing with. I'm just kind of, it is starting to stretch a little bit. You can kind of see these little diagonals, so I am happy that I'm doing this. It is getting this fabric a little looser on the bottom here. So I didn't maybe do a very good job at like pulling and stretching it. Not really stretching it, but making sure it was totally flat when we got it on here, sandwiched it, but I think we're doing fine. Yeah, now it seems good again. Just had a little segment that it was kind of loose. Oh, and right here it looks a little bit loose, so just tiny little parts. Not the whole thing, which is nice. Ooh, backing scraps could become quilted ties to carry the quilt. Oh, that's interesting. Piece together to make a bag. Oh yeah, all of this extra fabric. I know, I think that's a bummer every time I make one of these to have all that extra fabric. I do sometimes, they usually end up in my improv piecing stack, and I'll sew them back together. I do have piles of these little pieces of batting though. I don't really throw those out. I'll have to like Frankenstein sew them all together at some point, I think. Okay, we're getting to the corner here. Just want to straighten it out a hair again. Think about right there is what we're going for. All right, I would call that one edge done here. I just kind of want to take a peek at what it looks like. All right, so great. So on the back, I'm not immediately seeing lots of pulling. It just looks like another border line. So that's great. Okay, good. Good. Looks decent all the way along the line. I'm collecting fuzzles in some of these stitches. Great. So we'll actually cut all of this off. Like I said, I probably will still just do it with the scissors and go around the edge here. So anyway, let's keep going. Let's keep going around the edge. So this is my first one. I do feel good about doing this, getting it sewn down first. It is looking good. Oh, Brenda says I want to do this on my featherweight, but I'm timid to try. Oh, so this would, I'm assuming, work just like how your featherweight would, because these old puppies just really can go through the fabric. I think, I haven't used a featherweight, but I have on the 99. Wait, that's the medium one. I have the 66 size Singer sewing machine. And yeah, all these old ones just work so well. So I think, I doubt you'll have any problem. Ooh, I think I got a little oil on here. Ugh. From the machine or something. I don't know. Let's get the gloves back on. But yeah, I bet you the featherweight would totally work. I mean, it's kind of weird. I like having the larger, my extension table on, or, all that's great. And, I normally do a zigzag. Like I said, this would normally be a zigzag for me right now, but I don't know. It seems to be working kind of swell. So let's see if we can get at least this side. Oh yeah, I think we have time. If we can just get the other two sides, the three sides done. We have three, if you include this one, we have three edges basically to tack down. That's what we're doing. Oh, Sharon says, I love this quilt. I am totally in love with this quilt still too. This is that Lissa Alexander is the designer. It was done for allpeoplequilt.com, or it was in the oh gosh, what's that magazine called? The Love of, well, I have it right here. I gotta look now. I always forget. American Patchwork and Quilting, and it's on allpeoplequilt.com, and it's just so cute and fun, and I'm just having the best time making it. It's taking me forever, obviously, because I'm only working on it for a little bit. Oh, Dawn dish soap will probably take the oil out. Okay, I'll have to do that tonight. I'll get it on there, because that's a little farther from the edge, so you will see it. So that's a bummer. But yeah, this feels like a quilt that I would actually potentially make again. Maybe not a full queen size, but like a little baby quilt with a few of these blocks would just be so fun. It was really enjoyable to stitch the whole process. And yeah, it's just taking forever because I only work on it like 5 hours a month, basically. 4 hours, actually, really, a month, because I usually do finish it Friday, which takes up one of the days. So I feel like it's getting a little loose again, and it seems to happen kind of when I switch, when I've made the seamed to of these border pieces together. But, okay, now it seems better again. Okay. Huh. Whatever. Ugh, I just feel like I got so much bulk here. Let's scooch it all again. Oh, see, Noeline's comment on hand placement. Oh, are my hands just everywhere, not working well for this? I don't do oodles of quilting, so this is definitely good practice. Oops, shoot. Don't want to get that pucker in. So if I had my extension table on, I'd probably have my hands more out like this, but I just have, it's like this little piece here is coming off the machine. My extension table does actually fit on any machine, but I would have to do all the adjustments to get it to fit on this one. That's what I actually really like about the extension table that I do have. It's it fits on, it adjusts, so it's the sew adjustable table. If you do a search for that, and it adjusts to any size machine, so I could adjust it to this, and I've done that before. But we're only going to be here for a couple more days yet, so I figure, we'll just keep going like this, and I'll leave it adjusted to the other one that we'll use later. Oh, tied to go for the fabric too. Oh, yeah, I'll have to see if I have one of those pens. Oh, the comment was how I'm feeding the quilt. Oh, I missed the comment. I'll have to check it afterwards. All right, we're got about 2 more to go yet, so all right. Oh, smoothing the fabric towards the needle to ease the stretching of the fabric. So smooth it towards the needle a little bit more versus outward. Okay. Oh, I see what you're saying, because then yeah, okay, that makes sense. So basically, instead of moving outward like this, since it's going to push even more down, kind of aim kind of upward towards the needle, and then it can work on those diagonal, like getting those getting what might be a pucker later. That makes sense. Okay, that makes sense. Oh, Brenda says your Kenmore sounds like my featherweight. Yeah, these old machines, they got a little bit of that kerchunkety sound, which I just love. Ooh, I'm getting a little closer to the 1/4 inch. I don't want to do that, because I want these stitches covered up by my 1/4 inch seam allowance later. Yeah, so I'm counteracting the stretch by aiming it upward. That's totally working. That makes so much sense. That's fabulous. Ugh, see, learning so much. And we are to this end. So it takes me a little while. It takes me a little while to get all the way down one of these sides. But we're getting there. Ooh, I'm feeling like I got the back on a little crooked here, but that's gonna be an adventure, seeing how I lined up this back. All right, flip that up. Let's get our rotating going. 2 more sides to do. We're getting there. It'll be kind of fun to just chill and trim the edge off. That's just gonna make it feel super done too. Ugh, it's So much bulk. Let's take another peek. Still looking good. Man, maybe I should do more quilting on these super old machines. It's just really working well, I think. I mean, I don't have a walking foot on or anything. I mean, eventually I'll be doing more of the free motion quilting, less of this straight line stuff, but we'll be doing the straight line stuff for a while yet. Scooch. All right, that putting my hand up more kind of diagonal than just straight out is really working well. Or pushing the fabric up more at a diagonal. Ugh, so much bulk. I hate having this all in my lap and just everywhere. I'm not a huge fan of all the fabric. Okay, so it is getting really loose here now, which is a bit of a problem. But let's see if we can just kind of ease it a little bit more. So this side, for some reason, is particularly loose. Hopefully it'll just correct itself soon. Yeah, this side's way looser than the other sides. Boo! Well, we'll keep working at it. Oh man, you guys, this is stirring up the fuzzles though. I feel like I'm gonna sneeze. Super sneeze soon here. Alright, we got some puckers going on, but again, I think it'll be covered up by the binding, so it's not the worst. That's for sure. Yeah, now we seem a little bit more back on track for these little bloops. But yeah, this side is definitely looser than the other two sides so far. That's kind of weird. And I'm approaching a pin. I think we'll take that out. All right, we're about halfway through this line, maybe. Almost halfway. But yeah, this guy's a little bit more troublesome than the other one, so I'm glad I'm doing this pre-sewing. Good thinking, everyone. Oh man, I'm getting the puckers though now. But like I said, I think these puckers are so small that they'll be hidden in the binding. Oh, that makes sense, Noeline. She says it probably stretched when I pressed the seam edge on the border. That could totally be true. And I'm sure I didn't cut these perfectly straight, so they might be a little bit on the bias too, which will stretch it. But yeah, you're right. When I pressed it, probably stretched it a bit. Because I'm sure I didn't do that perfectly. All that pressing. Oh man, this is just so bulky. Off the floor. We only have one seam after this though, and I think I'm gonna just go for it. I know we're getting low on time again, but I would love to have this last seam done tonight. So might go a hair over just so I can get that done. Then tomorrow I'll start by trimming off this edge. I think this excess edge, which I'm probably gonna do with the scissors. And then we'll get to the sewing on of the binding. Ugh, it's just so bulky. Not my favorite thing when projects get this big and bulky, but it does also mean that we're close to being done with it if we're at the giant quilt stage. So that's always nice. Ugh, this border is extra annoying though, this side, so I hope that the last one is a little nicer. As far as the extra stretchy, or the extra fabric. All right, here we are getting to this corner. This is our last corner that we have to rotate on. It really had a lot of extra fabric on this side though, which is annoying. Okay, there we are. Last edge, let's do it. Get her done. Oh, Nolene says, we'll stick with you and support you. That's nice. I appreciate it for sure. All right, there we are. Let's get going. Let's hope this side's a little bit better than the last. I'm already stuck. Here we go. All right, let's get up here again. Oh yeah, like something to the left of me could help with the bulk, that's true. Yeah, I'll have to consider that, especially when we start all the free motion quilting, because the less I have to deal with bulk, the better. Looking cute though. I got a lot of clips, a lot of pins in this border. Maybe I shouldn't have done that. We're getting there. Definitely relaxing to sit and do this though still. All right, yeah, these pins are, I put some pins in the binding here and that's, they're not helping me now. Oh, the weight of the quilt is probably adding to the tendency to pucker. Kimberly mentioned. Yeah, that seems totally like what might be happening too. I think it's the pressing though. I think I probably didn't press it just right and then lay it on the sandwich it just right. It is a teeny tiny border too, but yeah, I'm sure it was when I pressed it probably a little bit. Ooh, we are so close. This one's going way faster than the last row, which makes me think we did a little bit better job. It is doing a bit of that stretching, but not nearly as bad. All right, gotta take another clip out. A little curved safety pins. Oop, lost one. There. Another scooch, and we're getting there. Oh, Catherine's saying I always do a hand long stitch around. Oh, that way you can straighten if you can. Oh, interesting. So you'll do this part by hand. That's cool. Those are all like the good, super good tips. Okay, Mary's asking, missed it, but did you spray base the sandwich? Nope, I only pin based it. So that's interesting. So that would maybe be I haven't done spray basting ever before, but I bet you that would take care of this problem. This edge would just be stuck right down, wouldn't it? And it'd probably be a lot easier to do this. Push it up on the right edge where it's stretching. Yeah, that's what I'm trying to do. It is gathering there a little bit more, which is great. So that's definitely helping a lot. Pushing up at a diagonal. Okay, this is my last little clip. I only have like 8 more inches to go here, you guys. Yay! Get the gloves back on. Yep, we'll trim this out. Oop, little pucker. Trim this out tomorrow. I'll just trim all of this batting off and the back. I'm just gonna like literally do that with the scissors. And ooh, hopefully it doesn't get, oh, it's gonna be like a really puckery here, but we do what we can. And then we'll get that binding on. Oh, this is a lot. We're gonna have quite the pucker here, but hopefully the quilting will help with that, or the binding will help with that. Oh well. This corner is going to be a bit wonky. I am going to just back tack here though. I think that'll be fine. All right, good enough. Let's snip this. I know this corner is a bit wacky. Yeah, a bit crazy and puckery compared to like the rest of it, but oh well. I am hoping that the binding will just kind of go over that. This is probably the worst little area of the rest of the whole thing, but the rest is looking pretty decent. Good enough is what I think. And yeah, let's just check this side again. We're getting a little bit of that stretching, but not nearly as bad as what it could have been for sure. I think we're fine. We'll be fine. Oop, there's a pin. All sorts of pins. But yeah, I think it's gonna turn out super duper cute. There's a little higher just so fun to see it with the border and everything. Maybe I'll just go around quick and take out these pieces from the border. You know, a lot of this could do with how poorly I mitered the corners too. We had to like do a whole pile of pucker mitigation in the corners there. So I'm sure my pre-measured borders probably didn't hang out with those poorly mitered corners very well, but I think it's fine. This is for sure the worst little spot there, but I think it's totally fine. Oh, yep, you're right, Amy. I'll have to change the stitch length back when I sew the binding on. Good point. Oops, did I miss one? Nope. I'm just going around quick, getting rid of these pins that are in the border because we don't need them anymore because we sewed the border. So in the pattern, it's really, really decorative in the border. So I kind of want to do that for this skinny border yet, but there's tons of decorative stitching in all these little other borders. I don't know if I'm going to do all that. But I'm doing all the stitch in the ditch stuff first, just because if I change my mind and do want to get super fancy with it, I still can. And I love that we're cheating and putting on the binding right away here. Okay, so tomorrow's going to be awesome. We're going to cut off all this excess and get the binding on. I'm over the moon that I'm at the stage that we're putting a binding on, even though I know we're skipping quilting. I'm going to have to actually get back to that too, but ugh. Every piece will be connected. That'll be nice. And I love this decorative border. So this is the first time I've done like a decorative border like this. And it was really, really fun. I love how it looks. Oh, Sharon says, after it's washed, all the you know, it gets all wrinkly, all those, you won't see any of those puckers or anything. That's totally true. And I think a lot of it will actually go away after I put the, oh, this is pretty bad here too. After I put the binding on, I think a lot of that will go away as well. Ugh, so pretty. All right, you guys, I am so happy with how this is turning out. So we have theoretically a completely done border here. So we are at the point that we can put a binding on because we've quilted down the border. The binding won't move around now that it's quilted. But the design has really, really, really decorative stuff going on in this border, really decorative stuff going on here, and really decorative stuff going on there. Plus all inside the blocks, which we haven't even thought about yet. So that's the part that I'm just like, meh, do I wanna get that detailed? I might. I'm just looking at the back here. I can tell that it's totally not square at all. It's kind of whooping up into the corner a little bit, but that's just how this is going to be. We are going to have funny little blooped up corners on this thing, and I'm okay with that. I'd rather do that and preserve like the thickness of the borders, I think, instead. Anyway, I'm having fun. That's, I guess, the most important part, and we're getting close to like a pretty finished quilt. I'm stoked. So thank you guys again. We will continue this tomorrow. I think it's binding day tomorrow. We'll do a quick cut around this whole thing and get that binding going. Ugh, that's gonna make it feel so finished. I'm excited. Ooh, I should get a label out too. Gotta get my little penguin and fish label sewn in as we do the binding, I think. That'll be good. All right, so back again tomorrow at 8:30 p.m. Central Time. I'm still on YouTube, Facebook, and TikTok, so you can see what you like best for that. And yeah, we'll keep going with this. So have a great night, everyone. Thanks again for all your help today. It was awesome. And I'll see you tomorrow. Good night. Thanks.